for one of the most fundamental traditions of local democracy, the all-candidates meeting. Democracy does not depend on everyone agreeing. It depends entirely on how we handle our disagreements. In recent years, we have seen public discourse increasingly pull towards high-decibel, hyper-adversarial style of politics, one that prioritizes spectacle over substance, treats debate as combat, and turns neighbors into enemies. That is not how effective local democracy works. Our municipal government is not about partisan grandstanding. It's about the real everyday decisions that shape our community. True leadership is not measured by who speaks the loudest or scores the sharpest political point, but by the ability to listen critically, challenge ideas rigorously, and debate with dignity. To our candidates, we ask that you present your vision clearly, address the issues directly, and challenge competing policies, not personal character. To our audience, your engagement is essential. We ask for your patience, your open minds, your respect for every person willing to step forward and serve. Let us give every speaker the courtesy of being heard without interruption. Let's show what healthy, respectful civic debate looks like. Thank you all for being here, and we're going to start. So everyone who came in today in the audience received a ticket, and those numbers will be drawn, and that's ready to ask questions. So the questions are addressed to all candidates. They can choose to answer or not. It's really up to them. And they need to focus strictly on policy, platform, or municipal community issues. Personal attacks or commercial promotion will not be allowed. The speaker must present a direct question without lengthy preamble or multi-part sub-questions. Question delivery is 1 minute to state the questions. Candidates each have 2 minutes to respond. And if a candidate specifically references another candidate on the panel, they will get 30 seconds to rebut. The response rotation, we're just going to start at one end to answer the questions first and work our way down as the questions come. For timekeeping, once the candidate starts their answer, with 30 seconds left, we'll give you sort of 30 seconds, and then the mic will take away in 2 minutes. And again, please remain quiet as the questions are being asked and answered. And if we could hold applause to the end for all the candidates. And we're going to allow the candidates 2 minutes right now to present who they are and why they're here. And we're going to start with that. And we'll start the question and answer this side. We'll start the introductions this side.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you to our hosts. Putting this together is supremely important, but also a huge thank you to all of the candidates. Putting your name in deserves the utmost respect. It is challenging to stand up in front of a group of peers to talk about your beliefs, your community, so I commend you and thank you for being here today. My name is Stefan Walma. I'm excited to run for my 4th term of council. I did 2 terms as deputy mayor, and most recently I've been serving as councillor. I started when I was 26. I'm 39 now, so I think 39 might be a little early to retire. I started with no kids. Now they are 10 and 8, and my youngest daughter here is with us today. My background is I did a bachelor's degree in kinesiology and did very little with it. Got into politics early, but since then I've used the opportunity to educate myself, getting a master's certificate in municipal leadership at York University, and further a certificate in negotiation mastery at Harvard Business School online. After 3 terms, I'm not running to learn about municipal government and how it works. I'm running because I have a passion for community still. I have a passion for building for the future, for future generations. And I have a passion, and I have the experience to make it work effectively. I know there's lots of issues out there, and hopefully we'll get into some of those today. My materials are not available yet, but I will have them out there very shortly. Looking for your vote, looking for engagement, and excited to be here, so thank you very much.
Hi everybody, my name is Kelly Holoka. I'm currently a counselor in the Township of Tiny on this current council. I still don't consider myself a politician. I just try to make the best decisions that I can on your behalf and everyone else in the township. I'm recently a grandfather of 2 little boys, one 8 months and one 3 months. And continuing, I'm going to run for re-election so that I can build this community for them as well. They're my focus, and it's great being a grandparent for the first time. If any of you have that honor, you know what I'm talking about. I am all about protecting the environment. I think it's crucial to our success, not only as a municipality, but as a country. And I'm excited to run for re-election and bring forth the questions. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve McNamara, and I'm running for council. First, I'd like to thank everybody for being here on a Sunday. The weather's changed, but normally there's lots of other things you've got to do. I'd like to thank the organizers, TinyTRA.com and TRA for putting this together. This gives us a chance to have conversations that matter. Civic engagement allows voters to make informed choices based on ideas, values, and a clear understanding of where the candidates stand. I'm running because I deeply care about Tiny Township, about our neighbors, our natural spaces, our rural character and services, and a sense of community that makes this place special. Like many residents, I believe council has an important responsibility to listen to residents, to spend our tax dollars carefully, to protect what makes the place special, and make practical decisions that serve the whole community. If you manage to grab one of my flyers, you'll see my slogan here is back to basics. That's what I believe that to get back to. So for me, back to basics means good local government starts with respect. Respect for taxpayers, respect for the residents' voices, respect for the environment, and respect for the fact that every decision affects real people. If elected, basically, I look forward to sharing my positions with you, but more importantly, I'm here today to listen. I'm going to take notes because the township hasn't been here to listen to for the last little while. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending, and thank you to the organizers for doing all of this. My name is Jessie Garland, and I have been a resident of Tiny since 2003, and the house that I own there is actually the only house, first and only house I have ever owned. And when I came here, I made a goal to sort of, well, I didn't know anything about housing or anything, so I really needed my neighbors and my friends to kind of guide me as to what I was supposed to do, especially when I ran into problems like when water was running down my inside hallway. So so I had to, so I learned a lot of things. And one of the first things I did when I got here was I joined our community association. And I worked with the township and our neighborhood to work on preserving the dunes. So my focus was initially only about the environment and preserving a small portion of the dune area of the township. I learned about phragmites, spotted knapweed, and all those sort of things that I never really knew before. So anyway, that was my start. And as I lived here longer, I just got to know more and more. And as I became president of our neighborhood association in 2016, and as a result of that, I also would liaise with Township to achieve various things for the neighborhood, such as installing public benches. So we wanted, we have a lot of older people in our neighborhood, and they, just a brief summary of my background. So I am a University of Toronto graduate. I have an Ontario Securities course from 1988, and I served on the insurance board, the Insurance Bureau of Canada's Commercial Liability Committee for well, from 2015 until my retirement at the end of 2024. I think I have a lot of, and I worked for multinational corporations for 40 years, so I think I have a lot of financial background and a lot of, that's it, okay, thanks, bye. Good job, Jesse.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all here. It's really nice to see a packed house, and thank you, TRA, for putting this together. A lot of you might know me from the Facebook page. I've been an activist in this township since early 2023. I've attended every single council meeting until I got trespassed, and I watched them from home. And my passion became, when I moved here, well, I bought my place in 2003, but I was still working at the Chrysler plant as an auto worker. And when I retired, I moved up here full time. I'm an avid snowmobiler, and I ride a motorbike, and I met a lot of people in the community through those two hobbies of mine. Once I started going to the council meetings, I got really involved with the finance part of it. I was shocked to see all the spending that was going on, and I guess my passion was to get information out to the public. Sending out flyers, fighting against the administration building, and kind of getting everybody to know what was going on. And that passion grew to where I am today, running for deputy mayor. And I have an accounting background. I am not an accountant, but I did study up to advanced accounting at Ryerson and Sheridan. So I have a good knowledge of accounting, and I think that's my strength. And looking at redundancies, I did that at the Chrysler plant. I could see how things operated, and I was really good at kind of, I wouldn't say cutting jobs, but I was good at making sure there wasn't redundancies. And I guess that's about all, and I'm excited to be here today to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the organizers. My name's Don Anthony. I'm a resident of Tiny for 23 years. I live in the same home. I live off a baseline road, so I live up at the top of the hill. I call it the top of the hill. A lot of you folks are at the bottom of the hill, down by the water. I know maybe it could be wrong. But so I bring a little different perspective to the township. I think that what I see is the people at the top feel like they've been neglected in all the decisions that the current council has been made and what's going on, and that their voices are not heard. Okay? That's one of the reasons I'm running. I also am running because I believe I have something to offer. I'm a business guy. I've been in business my whole life. I have a degree in economics and a diploma in turf management. So I ran a landscape and property maintenance business for 20 years, and I've also been a golf superintendent for 30 years. And my specialty was taking golf courses that were in trouble, that had financial issues, and turning them around and making them profitable. And thank you. And I see a lot of that as similarities here in the township today. I see a township that has lost its way, it's lost its core services, and it's going in the wrong direction, spending a lot of money with the wrong things, doing the wrong things, and we need to get back and be responsible to the taxpayers and find a new way. Okay? I feel I can find efficiencies. I feel we can work together, and I just want everybody. I want a little more love in Tiny. I think we're all angry with each other, and we all need to get back to a point where we're working together and getting along, and we'll go forward from there. So I really look forward to talking to all of you and getting your input, because there's a lot of really smart people here in Tiny that can help us get back on that.
I want to thank everybody for being here and for the organizers. I'm Dave Burnell. My family came in the 1850s to LaFontaine, and we've been here since. Love it here. I've worked here. I've worked 20 years in the construction industry in Tiny. I went to school in LaFontaine and PSS. Did 30 years of community coaching. I did a lot of volunteering at different events and festivals. Also have a BA in economics from Royal, and really enjoy being here today. This is what this is all about. So that's the key bio. Why am I here today? Because we firmly believe in this town hall, the gatherings, so that you can see exactly what's going on. Through social media, it's very difficult, a lot of misinformation going on there. So this is why I want to thank Terry for this opportunity to share with you. What I'm looking for is peace, order, and good governance and fiscal responsibility back to our municipal government, and especially in Tiny. I've seen a lot in the last few years, I've learned a lot in the last few years. I was thinking about running for mayor the first time, and you know what, not quite ready to do that yet, to run for mayor. I declared in October, and I'm ready. I've been thinking about this for a good 2 years. I knew that was coming, and I would be honored to serve as mayor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ray Miller, and I'm running for councillor. Over the past 30 years, I've served this municipality as a councillor, mayor, and fire chief. I've served the broader community as a director with Crime Stoppers, Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care, the Face Restorative Justice Program, and Zero Waste Central, to name a few. I'm offering to serve again because I've gained the skills, experience, and judgment that will be necessary on the next council. Voters should ask what to expect from a candidate. Accountability, transparency, fiscal responsibility, honesty. Those are all important factors, no doubt. They're the minimum standard, though. That's not a campaign platform. Meeting the minimum gets you through the gate, but it doesn't prove your experience, your judgment, or your record. I've been through difficult municipal decisions in the past. Site 41 was perhaps the most significant one. That was a landfill that was proposed and consumed this county, or this municipality, for more than 2 decades. I opposed that to the end. I secured a conservation easement protecting the land, and despite years of opposing the Simcoe County, I was asked to continue working with their solid waste management committee after my term as councillor had ended. That taught me you can disagree strongly and still maintain the respect needed to work together. Municipalities face risks. A black swan is an unexpected risk. A white swan is a foreseeable risk. A gray rhino is a probable, slow-moving risk that carries serious consequences, yet we tend to look away. Tiny has a gray rhino. That gray rhino is a growing infrastructure deficit combined with a limited opportunity to expand our tax base. Before anyone makes promises about what can and should be done, we need to uncover the facts. Which commitments are mandatory, which are discretionary, and which can be reconsidered. And regardless of your ideology, you need to take a look and see what that's going to do to the legal services required and provided by the county. The next council is going to inherit difficult problems and tough choices. What can be done, what must be done, and in what order. That's my promise to the voters of the municipality. Thank you.
Good morning, and thanks to the organizers of this meeting. My name is David Sparrow, and I'm running for Tiny Council. I was inspired to run for council because I'm passionate about Tiny Township, and I believe I can help foster a solutions-based approach that will address the many issues facing Tiny taxpayers today. I've spent my career making informed decisions, negotiating strong outcomes, working collaboratively with others, and delivering results. As far as my history goes, I've been in Tiny Township for over 60 years, early childhood to present day. My grandparents owned a cottage on Canal. It's a child that came up every summer with my family. Then I was an owner of an Ardmore cottage, which I owned for 15 years. Currently I'm in a cottage on I'm a retired police officer with Peel Regional Police for 16 years, and then transferring to the Provincial Police for 17 years. I believe my past experience, police experience, will be beneficial for solving problems and resolving conflicts. My policing career gave me many opportunities to work on conflict resolution. I was able to look at both sides of the issue and understand both points of view, and then work towards creating positive solutions based on fairness and integrity. My top priorities, they're in my trifold. I won't get into them in detail, but the Ontario Provincial Police Contract, I feel strongly that I can help with that. Bylaws review, I think the township needs a complete bylaw overhaul, and we need to get that reviewed. Acceptance management is another huge issue that needs to be looked at. We have for our sustainability, we need a long-term wall contract. Drainage, parking strategy, roadsman reserve, all those need to be looked at. So if elected, I will work to improve communication between council and residents with more updates, reintroducing town hall, and budgets are released. Current council, I'll work to, work with council to make informed decisions that will benefit all Chinese taxpayers. We've always worked with integrity, providing sound and honest advice. And that's my 2 minutes.
Yeah, my name is John Bryant. I'm running for the position of councillor. I want to thank Janice Marks and the TinyTRA team for getting this all together. And check out their webpage, too. They've been doing a terrific job in getting information out there, not choosing candidates, but bringing the candidate forward so that we can review their portfolio. I'm a farm boy from Whitby, Ontario. That's why I have a strong connection to the land and the environment. And that led me on to education. I have a diploma and degree in landscape architecture from Ryerson Polytechnical Institute and the University of Toronto. Over the course of my career, I've had about 35 years in municipal government as a landscape architect or as a manager, and I've had the pleasure of working in some very fast-growing communities such as Milton, Barrie, Vaughan, and my last job before I retired was in Aurelia. And Aurelia is a little closer to Tiny than those other three I mentioned. As a landscape architect, I believe I've developed expertise in a lot of issues that are very pertinent to this community. I'm an expert in parks and waterfront planning, design and construction. I have great experience in capital and operational budgets. So not only design to build it, but have the resources and the staff to take care of it. 30 seconds. And okay, 30 seconds. My wife and I, we made Tiny our home in 2018, but her family goes back to Whitman Beach in 1950. But since becoming a full-time resident, I became a councillor in Tiny. I was not elected, I was appointed, and I've had a long volunteer with the township in terms of 7 years on the township's park restoration advisory committee.
It's December 2027. You re-elected the same old council. Your taxes have gone up another 15%. The admin building came in at $65 million. We have more divisive bylaws, we have more overreach from council than we've already seen. Or we can choose a different path. My name's Dave Kohler. I'm standing for mayor. I'm a third generation Tiny resident. My grandparents came here, both sides of my family. My parents met here. They bought a place in Tiny before I was born. My wife and I bought our first place in Tiny in 2013. We've been living here full time since February of 23. I'm running for mayor because I'm the third generation, but the fourth is here. And I'm deeply concerned about the direction the community is going. I gave you that little dystopian startup. Hopefully you're Netflix fans and that makes some sense to you. But I think it's important that you think about the choice ahead of us. As I've talked to people around the community, what I'm consistently hearing is that people want change. People are tired of this divisive council. People are tired of these bylaws, tired of the tax increase. So I'm offering you something different. I'm a business guy. I spent my career in the private sector in both public and private companies. I run companies. I know how to fix what's broken. I see a lot that's broken in this township. And I see it being divisive for our community. When a business flounders, you don't typically take someone off the bench and ask them to fix it. What you do is you bring in new blood, new clear eyes, to look at the problems, to understand what needs to be done, and to solve complex problems. That's what I do. That's my life's work. I'm here to offer my services to Tiny. I think we're on the wrong path, and I think we need to take serious steps in order to make sure that the next generation has a Tiny to embrace like we both have. Thank you.
I'm Chuck Straley. I'm running for mayor of Tiny. I've left a brochure at the back and it lists all of the things that I'm proposing. I'm setting up a website that that outlines all of my proposals for the upcoming term. And I also will be getting my signs out. I'm a little late. I guess a lot of the other people already have their signs on. But I do want to say I don't want to take a lot of time. I didn't bring a speech. I think that the first priority I would have would be to pave the road coming here. Just a little background, I've been here for 15 years. We built in the Lafontaine area. And when I first came here, we had no local homeowners association, so I formed the Lafontaine Homeowners Association, which I've been president for the last 10 years. It's been almost since the last 12 years attending council meetings and reporting through the TinyTRA newsletter, all the reports on council. Hopefully all of you have read them and see what's been going on. I really appreciate your vote. I'd like to thank all of the TinyTRA for organizing this today, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I think we should give them a round of applause.
Hi, thank you for coming and giving us all the opportunity to hear what you are proposing and some of your background. One of the concerns that I have in Tiny is the increase in taxes and the lack of engagement that has happened in the past 4 years and surprise building projects, namely the administration building and the cost of that. So it's my understanding that that's in the neighborhood of around $28 million on paper, but with loans, et cetera, it could go up to $55 to $60 million. With the economic decline happening throughout our world in Canada and elsewhere, and job losses happening and housing shortages, et cetera, how do you propose going forward to keep us in a tax bracket that we are under inflation, to not go forward with these huge expenses, to be watchdogs, to be cautious, to be considerate of the property owners here? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I've been writing letters to council. I've been writing letters to Midland today. Every year when the taxes go up, complaining about the fact that they should be targeted to no more than the increase in cost of living. If I'm elected mayor, that would be my position. I have to convince 4 other councillors the same thing, but as far as I'm concerned, that's what needs to be done. We've had too many. A year ago, we had over $1 million surplus at the end of the year. This year, we had over $2 million surplus. And if we've got that kind of money left over at the end of the year, and we don't even know that until April, very problems.
Thanks for the question, Barb.
Sorry to interrupt. When you're answering the questions, if you can please stand up. I just had a comment from someone in the back. They can't see you or hear you very well.
Just bring the mic right up.
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
Thank you for your question. It's obviously top of mind for every resident of Tiny, is how do we keep this community not only affordable, but to improve the physical infrastructure, and to balance that. You add in things like this incredibly expensive town hall, we have a big problem. I'm not going to pander to you for your votes and promise you to reduce your taxes. I don't think it's possible. What I can tell you is I will reduce some of the discretionary spending that this council has undertaken. We can get rid of some things that are costing us a lot of money. Lawsuits, for example, that aren't adding value. We're pitting residents against the town. It costs hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, I'm sure. There are multiple cases on the way. We need to settle these. We need to start listening to our constituents. We need to start spending money on the things that we need to spend money on. Roads, infrastructure. But the truth is, the town council, the new admin building is underway. So anyone that tells you they're going to reduce your taxes, I think is dreaming. I wish I could say that. What I can tell you is I'll be a responsible steward of your taxes and will explain fully, if I'm in there, on where the money goes, how much is coming in, what the obligations are. It'll be open and transparent. And that's my commitment to you. As an operator, I'll do everything in my power to reduce the expenses and to get rid of the unnecessary line items. But the truth of the matter is we are all in a boat that was set sail by this existing council. So the next mayor and council has a big job in front of them. I'm prepared to undertake that. I think I bring the skills to the table to do it successfully, but I will only be able to do it with the support of the community and the input of the community. I look forward to the opportunity.
Hard not to follow there. In terms of the budget, I think it should be more realistic in terms of.
Can you speak up, please? Cannot hear at the back. Speak up. It's Jan.
I think I'm in the way. In terms of can you hear me now?
Hold your mic closer. Yeah, hold your mic closer.
How about that? Okay, in terms of the budget, I think we have to be realistic as politicians as we get into this and try to reflect it like your own home budget. Like we said, I sit down with my wife and we talk about what can we afford to travel, and we don't have the luxury of just spending other people's money. And that's why I think council's doing it. It's just like a monopoly money. It's just going out the door. So I think it's really important to, although I give them credit for bringing that project forward, it's on the books for 10, 15 years. I think the method in which they brought it forward was just a total disaster in terms of getting the public support on it. For those mega projects, I think you have to really engage the public to buy into that type of stuff. To see, number one, is there public support for it? There is, then how are we going to achieve it? And over what time frame? And how much is it going to hurt? So I think it's really important to always engage with the public to understand what their priorities are. And if it's simple priorities, Chuck joked about the road coming in. It's not a joke. I think we have to take care of some of the assets that we already have within our community before we start jacking up the price and going for another $5 million property on the Rocky waterfront that I'm not sure how you get to it, but we will get to it, I hope. So anyway, cost of living, and then really consult for those special projects that are big.
Looking at the budget, my thoughts would be go through the whole budget, every department in China, and try and see where savings could be had. Right from line one to the end. I agree with David as far as different budget things going forward. It has to be looked at line by line. I don't remember, I ran in the last election, I don't remember anything about a new building. All of a sudden that was dropped on us. And I think when we saw 3,500 stop and build signs. Now that we're saddled with that, so the 75% built by the time the election comes forward. Again, we have to look at how to look at that. I think my mediation skills would help. We need to sit down at the table with all the different towns, beach associations, and sit down and come up with plans to negotiate outcomes rather than lawsuits. We're wasting thousands and thousands of dollars on the bylaws, those in the situation. All those have to be looked at, studied, and then come up with solutions that aren't going to cost tiny taxpayers probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's a huge savings there. So that would be my proposal looking forward at budget savings. I think we can cut some costs, and we'll just look forward to going through the whole budget and see what we can come up with.
By the time we get to the end of the table, there won't be much left to say, Councilor Wall. I just want to take a minute, and I'll be brief, echo the comments of candidate Kohler. there's a discretionary spending that's taking place now. That's the gray rhino I mentioned earlier. What we need to do, as I said, is to stop funding discretionary priorities while core municipal services remain underfunded. Wishful thinking isn't a policy, and hope is not a financial plan. We've got to start looking at the hardcore services that need to be funded, many of which are legally required, cannot change. There was some comment about holding things to the rate of inflation. I'm not sure that that's possible, especially when you measure inflation as the cost of living. The basket of goods that a municipality provides is very different than the basket of goods that consumers purchase. The price of eggs and butter doesn't help you determine how much it's going to cost to pave a road. When you have to start paving roads with municipal funds, it's a difficult challenge. And to stick to a consumer price index cost of living increase, you're going to build a structural deficit in your budget. That is in part of the reason why we're here in the situation we have. We've got a $50 million infrastructure deficit that's growing every year. Until we start turning our attention to that problem before discretionary spending, that gray rhino is going to run into this. Thank you.
I think it was a question we've been canvassing for the last 7 weeks, and the number one question at the doors is about this new bill. By far, not even close. So, somebody mentioned mega project. I don't think, it would have been great to have a referendum about this mega project. I think it should have been a referendum done. I was the only councillor that voted against this mega project, because Tiny had never had a debt more than $1 million, ever. Now we're going to incur a generational debt of 30 years. And this is after a report that came out 2 years ago that said we already have an $80 million deficit in our current infrastructure in the next 20 years. Where are we going to get all this funding? Is how are we going to reduce taxes? How are we going to keep taxes low? It's going to be very difficult. Bottom line, control spending. The spending is out of control. So how are we going to control that? Is by having a finance committee so that we have people from the residents that are going to basically have a say in what we're going to do about our spending. Public engagement, that's a component you brought up. We are going to have a town hall every 4 months. We're supposed to have one every year. We haven't had one in 3 years, so we're going to do it every 4 months. Because we want to hear from the people. The first issue right off the bat is about the new building. What are we going to do about it? There should be different options that we can look at. What's going to happen? We don't know the end result. Every month we're getting more information. It kind of grew from 29,000 square feet to 33,000 square feet. Now it's 35,000 square feet. It's like, okay, well, we'll find out where it's going to end, and then we'll get people engaged and find out what we're going to do with this new bill. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think that we all are feeling the pinch every time we go to the grocery store, every time we fill up with gas. Everything is going up excessively. I think that a lot of the problem that's going on here, and what we're talking about, all everybody's talking about is an attitude. There's an attitude in this, what's going on in Tiny right now, is that there's room to move on your taxes because your taxes are low comparatively to other people. So you guys can afford to pay more, and therefore we can go and take it. Okay? That's a crappy attitude. I hate that attitude. Okay, taxes are going to be up close to 40% in the last 4 years. That doesn't include 2026, which the numbers aren't out yet. This is a serious problem. Okay? And the building is part of it. Can it be fixed? I don't know. But I do know this, is that they have gone into deep debt, and what they've left us with is very little room to maneuver on any other serious issue that may come along. Right? We don't have anywhere to move now. So can taxes remain the same? Maybe some assets can be sold, maybe some things can be done. You have to look at the whole ledger and see what we can do in order to maybe get things back on track in a different direction and a new attitude, okay? An attitude that respects the taxpayer, that holds the taxpayer in a higher light, okay? And listens to the taxpayer, because we are all affected by this. All right, so that's my thing. I think we have assets to look at. I think there are things we can do to hold taxes or to reduce taxes, at least reduce the increases, and we can try and make real hard changes. They'll be tough decisions, but we can do it. We can do it.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, this is a really good question, Barb, thank you very much. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. When I printed my flyers, the Class B estimate wasn't out, so we didn't know all the sub-trades that were gonna be signed. And I put in my flyer that I wanna hold taxes at keep them steady, keep them flat, not have any hikes. Well, I think I was dreamy when I wrote that on my flyer, because the Class B estimate came out, and there's major cost, and we're in a really bad situation. Myself, maybe this is crazy to say, but I honestly think if we could sell this building, we'd be way better off ahead and fix up the one that we have. There's nothing wrong with it. We had the Gordon report, and it showed that the building was solid. Mayor Evans had mentioned in a council meeting that there was mold in it. Well, there's no mold in it. The walls aren't going to fall down. It's fine. It's just like my old house from 1965. It needs an upgrade. If we can't sell it, and I did it with freedom of information, and most of for the Bertrand contract, and most of it was redacted, so I can't stand here and tell you what we're in for. If we got out of the contract, what the fines would be. But I can assure you, if I got elected, I'm going to get those numbers from the staff, and then I'm going to have a town hall. I'm going to say, look, we're 4 million in, or we're 7 million in. This is what it's going to cost us to get out. What do you guys want? Because I don't think it should be my decision or 4 other people's decision to what we're going to do going ahead. I would like you to look at the variance report that's in the agenda for this Wednesday's meeting. We have some serious problems. I don't have time to answer them all. But we're underfunded by the fleet maintenance, the public works surveys. The tax revenue alone is running at 1.6 million below budget at the end of the second quarter. So if you read the variance report, you're going to see there's some good stuff in there. There's some surpluses under some general ledgers, but we got a serious problem, and I would like to have a town hall to get the problem solved. Thank you.
I'm going to say that a lot of comments have already been said. So I would like to state my position, and that is I am very concerned about the rising tax rate, because I recognize when I have been canvassing that a lot of people are seniors, they're on fixed incomes, and their pensions and things are not keeping up with inflation, and a lot of people are struggling, and I recognize that. So I think in order to actually respect all of the people who struggle with balanced budgets, it's the responsibility of a councillor to behave in exactly the same manner. So with my financial background from my insurance, I would have to look at all of what is our revenue? Are we going to get the same revenue every year? Because I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get the same amount of revenue from building projects or from, because I think building is down in the township, so I think we could be looking at decreasing revenue. So if revenue is decreasing, I think you also have to look at every single expense that you have and then decide, okay, what's good, what we keep and what do we let go. I think it will be very, very challenging. I'm not going to lie, because it will be. And I think I just want to respect the people who I know who are struggling. So that's it, and that's all I have to say, and I think I'm under 2 minutes. Thank you.
I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. I think we can all agree that we're in a very difficult situation financially. And everyone said the same thing. The first thing we need to do is get a full audit, go through everything, see what we're spending, where we can mitigate. I don't think we're going to cut our losses, but we can maybe mitigate something, find some other avenues of income. But as far as the bill, I don't know. None of us are going to know until we get in and we can actually see what's going on. But we're going to have a town hall, like they said. We'll come up with 3 or 4 options of what we can do, and then let the people tell us, and then we'll go from there.
4 years ago, I was at a debate like this, and I said, we're going to need a new building, and we may have to raise tax. That was 4 years ago, before the election. I'll give you a little bit of personal history. My master's master bedroom leaked. So I got 3 quotes from 3 different contractors who all quoted me at under $20,000 to fix it. When the walls were opened up and there was black mold and asbestos and chewed wires, that went up to just under $60,000. To renovate this current building, you don't know what it's going to cost you to renovate it until you open up the walls. Anybody who's had any construction or contractors done to their homes or cottages know this. So that's from a personal perspective. As far as taxes go, we are the 3rd lowest in all of Simcoe County. We are the 3rd lowest in all of Simcoe County. If you live on Wilson Road, which is the boundary, if you're on the Tiny side, your taxes are if you live on the east side in Midland, your taxes are 3 times that of what they are to the person who lives across the street. These are facts, folks. You know, you're not. Anyways.
There's way more. Everyone, can we please, out of respect, keep our comments to the very end? Again, it's not easy to be up here, and we have to sit there and comment out without too much comment, please.
Thank you. So there's a lot to unpack in that one question. I just want to throw out there that this was brought up in the last election. Unfortunately, the phone just turned off as we're going through it, but I brought it up as well. This has been an ongoing thing. We started looking at this in 2015. The new build is necessary. It's necessary for staff. We have staff in portables. They have to leave the portable to go to the washroom. We have to replace HVAC systems. There's no accessibility. There's no room for growth. There's offices and basements without window. It needs to be upgraded. So you can argue with the components of how that is addressed, but it definitely has been out there and needs to be addressed. As far as keeping taxes low, this council has looked at that infrastructure deficit. We implemented an AMP program, so we have an asset management plan. The province mandated we do this in July of 2023. Anyway, it was this term that we had to have that implemented. So we have a 2.39% suggested annual tax increase to address that deficit. This is something that is inherited from previous councils. We have, during COVID, municipal tax rates are kept artificially low to help people in those times. Inflationary pressures still happen. So the next year, you're fighting that deficit in itself as well. So a whole 40% increase that's being cited is the municipal side of things too. So it's also good to look at your total tax bill. Each year has been 5% or less. So municipal taxes are collected in 3 pieces. You have your municipality, you have the county, and the school board. When you blend those rates together, it has not been 40%. We definitely, as a council, have always looked at the impact of the municipality. We advocate to other levels of government. We collaborate with other communities. We were successful in getting $5 million from the province. If you want to talk about it after, I would be happy to do so.
All right, before we get to the next question, it's been asked from the audience that when you're answering questions, please stand up, state your name, and then go on with the answer. The next number is 416082.
Sorry, we have a new candidate in the room.
Come on down.
Laura Hughes.
Sorry that I'm late, everyone. I'll tell the story. I actually don't need a mic. Can everyone hear me? Yes? You need a mic for audio? No. No, okay. I'm Laura Hughes. You guys don't know who I am. I'm new to old to tiny, okay? My grandpa and grandma were born and raised in Thornbury, Ontario. The cottage that I have was built in 1936, purchased in 1932 for about $100. It is still the same cottage that stands on Tiny Beaches Road South. I was born and raised in Toronto and came up to Tiny each summer. I could swim before I could crawl, let's just say that. And now I live here. I decided to move here August 1st because We need change, and I can't stand still and watch this from the sidelines. The question, was it about what we're going to do with the admin building? Okay, it's very simple. If the admin building is in fact underway, I have to look into that. So we can't do anything about what we can't control. What can we control is how we use the building, okay? My website is laurahughesfortiny.ca. It's up, it's running, laurahughesfortiny.ca. I would like to hear from each and every one of you. There's a suggestion box. You tell me what we should do with the building. It's not my decision to make, it's yours. I will take everybody's ideas. We will do town halls. We'll figure out who on the top 5, right, top 10. We'll narrow it down, and we are going to give this community what it deserves, a building that everybody can use and share. Thank you.
All right, 416082.
Sounds like that song.
082. Yeah. 082, last call.
I've heard the difficult situation we're in, and an issue that's very important to me is short-term rentals. I would not want to see, one of the things I like about the current situation in Tiny is the cap on the number of licenses available. I wouldn't want to see anything done that increases the number of short-term rentals or decreases the enforcement with respect to short-term rentals in the name of making money for time. And I'd be interested to know if any of you would bring forward any policies which would expand the number of short-term rentals or decrease the enforcement with respect to the use of short-term rentals.
So just a reminder, please stand up, state your name, and run to the question.
Hi, David Kohler, candidate for mayor. Thank you for your question. Like many of the bylaws that I've read, short-term rental one to me is probably overreach. I acknowledge the problem. None of us want a short-term rental situation beside us where people party till 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody wants that. It would be, to me, a criminal move to allow that kind of behavior to occur in our community. But we have laws, we have bylaws, there are noise ordinances. So like many of the bylaws I've read, this one seemed like overreach. I don't know what the policy was, how they came up with 300. I don't know how that licensure was settled upon. I haven't seen any evidence of any science or any studies that would support that. I haven't seen anything that tells me that the process of acquiring one was fairly conducted. All I know is that some people count on the ability to rent out rooms or portions of their home or sometimes their entire home in order to make the mortgage payments or to pay for their property taxes. So when I see these overreach bylaws, my first thought is why? Do we need to create good behavior? Absolutely. Do we need to enforce our bylaws? Absolutely. But when you start bringing in these overreach maneuvers that the current council has brought to bear, I think you're causing as many problems as you're solving. So I would look at these laws like all of the others in my first 100 days in office. I think the plan would be just to review them all and to understand what we're trying to solve for, what's in the best interest of the community, and what laws make the most sense. Thank you.
I personally don't have a great amount of experience in knowing people that rent out their property. My name is John Brand. I like the idea of short-term rentals from one perspective. It allows families to come and experience Tiny, and maybe they can't afford the big trips, but it gives them an opportunity to visit Tiny, and hopefully they will come back to Tiny as future residents. One thing I'm not sure about is the how much that program is costing the town. I think I understand the numbers. There's 300 spots that can actually be rented out. But at the current rate, I believe there's only about 140 that are actually booked. So under that scenario, I thought that program was based on 300 and that would cover the town's costs. So I'm not sure from a financial perspective, we're digging ourselves into a little bit of a hole there too. So I would, as a councillor, want to get down to that and each year do a reevaluation of that program. How does it work? What worked well? Where do we need to improve? And do we need to continue it, or is causing our existing residents more trouble than it's worth?
David Sparrow. On the short-term rentals, I think a limit is important. Renting for 2 or 3 weeks to earn some money at a cottage, I don't have a problem with. I think unfortunately with the bylaws, including the SDRs, it's complaint driven. I think the bylaw department needs to be more aggressive with the SDRs, and the ones that are a problem, they need to address those far more aggressively. And then we'll get the community involvement as far as what limits and as to how many SDRs are tolerable in the community, and then and the rates going forward. That would be my position.
Ray Miller, thank you. We've got 4 years of data now to measure the effectiveness of the legislative regime that was put in place. So I think before making any decisions or further comments, we need to look at that. What's been done? How much did it cost? How effective was it? There are noise bylaws in place, parking bylaws, fire safety rules that everybody has to follow, as Council Candidate Kohler has pointed out. With respect to the notion of using the short-term rental to raise fees or provide revenue to the municipality, that's not a practical possibility. It's not a legal possibility, as a matter of fact. The courts have determined that there has to be a nexus, a connection, in other words, between the fees that are charged, the license fees that are charged, and the cost of providing those services. So that's a non-starter, that issue. I think there's an opportunity here for us to take a look and see what can be done and how it can be better managed in a more cost-effective approach, if that's indeed necessary. Thank you.
Captain Dave Brunel, and short-term rentals, what I said about at the beginning was, they've been here for decades, they're here to stay, but regulation needed to be put in place in time, because we do have a lot of short-term rentals. It wasn't becoming a situation that had to be dealt with. Prior council had 3 years quite involved with it, and we had an ad hoc committee. I respected their decision, so that's why I agreed with the bylaw. It's rock solid illegally. Is there tweaks that are going to be needed? Perhaps, but again, through public engagement, one of our town halls will be addressing this through the bylaw, and we'll see what people think. It's one of those bylaws that it didn't matter who was put in, both sides were not happy with it. Regulations, there had to be regulations. There was a lot of horror stories we were hearing about. If you heard the stories that we heard, regulations had to be put in place. So thank you for the question, very important question, but we dealt with public engagement on town hall.
Thank you, Don Anthony. So I think what's happened here is we can see that the province actually dropped the ball here. You know, there are rules for if you rent an apartment, there's a Landlord-Tenant Act, rules to follow, and everybody knows what it is. When the gig economy came along and Airbnb happened, those rules all got thrown out the window, and so the rules are now gone. So Tiny had to do something, because I can tell you a situation I know of a family that I used to take care of, where the parents passed and they had 2 cottages side by side, and the brother and sister each inherited one. The brother sold his cottage, where they'd been there for like 80 years. The brother sold the cottage, sold it to a guy who Airbnb'd it every weekend to a different group of partiers, and destroyed his sister's life. Absolutely destroyed it. And she had no recourse, because at that time there was nothing you could do about that. So some regulation needs to be in fact, but there shouldn't be. We all are property owners, and if you want to rent your property, and it's a way a lot of people have raised a little bit of money and help pay taxes and help keep the family cottage, there's nothing wrong with you know, with renting your cottage, but there has to be some kind of rules and regulations in place to help it. But also, those rules and regulations have to be enforceable. Some of these things, these bylaws that we have in place are difficult to enforce. It's hard to send a 20-year-old, female bylaw officer out in order to enforce this law against a group of people. So there has to be some reasonableness on all sides, and I also think the province really needs to step in here and do something different with that gig economy problem that we have.
Hi, Karen Zelina. Just so you know, I'm kind of the queen of freedom of information. So you can just ask the clerk in the office. I'm always digging for information. And when this program started, the first freedom of information I did was on the short-term rentals. And it was costing taxpayers well over $500,000 in the first year, so I kept an eye on it. I don't have the numbers on the top of my head, but right now, you were right, there's about 140 licenses. So basically what's happening is people are hiding under the radar because there's definitely, I've been knocking on doors, there's a lot more people than 140 renting in houses. I think with the going forward, maybe we could introduce a two-tier system, people that are renting all the time versus people that are just doing it once in a while. So the costs aren't $2,000 a month, which I think is some of the highest in Canada. And we also have to, I've been following the court cases, and there is quite a bit of money that is supposedly going to be collected by the town, but it hasn't. So going forward, we have to have bylaw a little more stringent on the trouble ones and not allow those guys to have licenses. Because people that are operating smoothly without bothering their neighbors, they shouldn't be, how would you say, penalized. And the people that are causing a lot of problems, they should be penalized so bad, like $10,000 fine or whatever we can get, because it's not us that sets the fine, it's the judge. So we have to come up with some type of a program where we can get these guys out of the community, because I agree, it's your business what you do on your side of the fence, but if there's somebody bothering you, we have to address that. And this is definitely a town hall issue, because we have to hear from the people that are renting and the people that are living beside renters. And that's how we'll have to go forward. And again, it won't be a 5-person that makes the decision, it's going to be a town hall decision. Okay, thank you.
Jesse Garland. So in our neighborhood, we had one house that drove us all crazy. And I think a lot of you can sympathize with that situation. So, there was garbage overflowing, there were parties till 3 o'clock in the morning, and that was a problem. So I was, and during COVID, I think it was magnified because nobody had anywhere else to go. So I listened in on all those meetings that were conducted by the prior council, and I supported, and my whole neighborhood really supported the STR bylaw, which we felt was needed to combat that issue. I went through that court case. The STR bylaw has been upheld all the way to the appeals court in Ontario. So, and we were one of the first townships to actually establish an STR bylaw. So I think that our bylaw might be actually a model for other townships. And, but I also recognize, also knocking on my door, that there are a lot of people renting, and they're renting for a variety of reasons. It might be financial, or because, like when I grew up as a kid, we always rented. We never owned a cottage. So I'm sympathetic to people who have to rent and don't have any other choices. So I think I'd like bylaw, I don't think you can, aspects of the bylaw that have been ruled on by the judge, I think you have to leave that alone. Where the township has leeway is to sort of look at, yes, the cost of, what it costs to, for the fees that people pay, or how many are available. And that's, again, that would have to be decided, because basically Tiny is a residential neighborhood, it's not a commercial entity. So no easy solutions either. I think if you want to change it, you have to have a town hall and look at those issues. Thank you.
Steve McNamara. I would have to be in agreement with Mr. Kohler. A lot of the bylaws in this that the township has put in place are overreaching, and they're going after the 1% the troublemakers, but they're painting us all with the same brush, and we're all getting penalized for it. I personally know families that have been coming here renting for 4 generations. They don't have parties, they're not troublemakers. We don't have those kind of issues. I understand that there are in many areas of the problem, and I think our bylaw departments need to address the proper bylaws, those situations that punish the bad people, not paint the rest of us with that brush.
So, for the record, this bylaw was put in place by the previous council. The current council inherited it and sat on it because they were being sued by the responsible host of Tiny. The current council could not amend or add or remove any items out of that bylaw until after the court case ran its course. And it only recently ran its course. Is there a little bit of an overreach? In my opinion, yes, but it's not my opinion that counts. It's your opinion. So, thank you. So, the next council will have to deal with whether they want to continue with this bylaw, add to it, or remove from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Walma, Councillor Taylor. To answer the gentleman's question directly, no, I would not change it. Would not increase the number of licenses available. If anything, I'd also look at a distribution program. When we looked at this bylaw the first time, one of the issues we have are particular neighborhoods becoming dense with Airbnbs and severely impacting the community and the neighbors that live there year-round. So if we were going to, and I think we would, do a review of the bylaw, that is one component I would like to have a discussion about, moving STRs further away from each other. The program is cost neutral. It scales with the number of licenses we have. There is 142 licenses. When we have licenses come in, staff time gets dedicated to that particular project, and the costs for the permit are supposed to cover those incurred costs. So it's funded by the STR operators, not the general levy. 20-year-old bylaw officers completely understand that there might be I guess, an intimidation factor, but they can absolutely issue a Part 3 summons. The enforcement is not done by our officers, it's done by the judicial system. There was a challenge to the SCR bylaw. The bylaw was upheld in the appeals court, and the township was awarded those legal costs back, so again, no costs were borne by the municipality. Thank you.
Hi. So to answer the question, thank you very much for your question. Yes, my name is Laura Hughes. I'm running for councilor. To answer your question, I don't know. I moved here on August 1st because I was living in Toronto. A year ago, I left corporate sales for a company called Sage Software in Canada, publicly traded company, and my role was sales representative, customer success manager, aka relationship builder. So I build relationships, that's what I do. So to answer your question, I don't know because I don't know about the bylaw. You know, I've got to look into it. Is it 300, is it 200? I'm not sure. What I do know is that as a counselor, my number one priority is to serve you, the voters and the residents. So that is my priority. So it's up to everyone in this room to tell me what I should do with the bylaw. Again, I don't have the answer. The answer lies with all of you. So how do we get there? A couple of ideas, a suggestion box on my website, www.laurahughesfortiny.ca. Maybe it's a town hall. Maybe it's a Zoom meeting. Maybe we're going to meet at the Friendly Corner and hang out with Connor. I don't know. But once we figure it out, you know, we can change the bylaw, right? So may I ask you a question? No? Okay, see, I don't even know how to do this, but anyway, thank you.
And the next number? 416-119. Oh, Chuck, sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
We added someone in and my number went off.
Traveling, running for mayor. Sorry I didn't stand up the first time, but yeah, I'm now. As far as the SDRs go, I was very involved with the SDR originally when it all first was brought in by the first council, and I know that they set up a committee, task force to look at the SDR bylaw, and it's formed with representatives from the town staff, SDR owners, and people that weren't SDR owners, and they came up with the original bylaw. And once it got to the staff level, it sort of took on a whole new life. They got legal involved, I'm assuming, and as was mentioned, again, it was far too much overreach in this bylaw. That's made it so difficult for people that do want to rent out their property and get some revenue in. I agree that there has to be a limit, but one of the things that I was a real proponent of was density. You can't have 4 SDRs on one street. That's one of the big issues that I was concerned about, and that wasn't addressed in the bylaw. So I think once the new council comes on, I think one of the first things they should do is restart that committee and go back again and say, what can we do? Because we shouldn't be subsidizing this. It's not, the taxpayers should be paying for this. It should be paid for by the SDR owners. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, back 119.
Hi, my name is Frank Bradstreet. I just wanted to ask a question about, it's really related to the tax situation. Giving a proper perspective on the tax situation. We have heard from one of the existing councilmen that the tax rate in Tiny Township is one of the lowest in Simcoe County. We also heard that when we got our tax bills from the mayor, he said the same thing. And yet we know that taxes, based on the financial statements, have risen between 30 and 40% on a compound basis over 4 years. Existing councilmen, with the exception of Dave Brunel, have continued to mislead us with misinformation about the tax situation in time.
10 seconds left, so.
Okay? So, gentlemen, how do tiny taxes compare to adjacent, and I'm talking about actual taxes, not the tax rate, assessed value times tax rate equals taxes, how do they compare to Tay Township and Springwater Township on a per capita, per person basis?
Very short to answer that question. My name is John Bryant. I have absolutely no idea. I do not know what days are running.
Can't hear you.
Lift it. What I was saying is I have no idea what our neighbors are doing in terms of their taxes and how we compare. I mean, I'm not an accountant, and I mean, that goes to the experts. You just have to get the proper people with the proper direction to solve that problem specifically.
David Stern, Councilor. Again, I agree with John. I have no idea what the comparisons are with other townships. All I know is our tax rate is 36% over 4 years. And with the new bill, it's not going to get any prettier. It's going to put us in a big way unless we can come up with different ways to offset some of that new bill tax. So that's where we have to look at it line by line and start looking at how we can reduce taxes the taxpayers come forward.
Ray Miller, I'm not at all concerned with what the tax rate is compared to one municipality to the next. I don't know that their tax rate is right. I don't know that it's wrong. What I am concerned about is, do we receive value for our tax dollar in this municipality? What everyone else does is their issue. That's the first thing I need to say. The second thing is, I assume that the questions are going to be to the women on the panel as well, not just the gentlemen. Is that correct? Struck me as somewhat odd. I'll leave that. Tax rate, what we're looking for is value for money at every opportunity. The fact that Tiny has moved from a lower position to a third position is also irrelevant. If it moves to the fourth and the fifth, does that make it better? If it falls back to the first, I don't know. Does that mean it's better? Probably not. Value for money, that's what we need to look at as we move forward. Thank you.
The Springwater and Page are about the middle of the pack compared to 16 municipalities in the county of Simcoe. We were the second lowest for many years, and now we're the third lowest, so that means that we're going in the wrong direction. We are very fortunate, actually, that our tax rate were low for the last few years, the tax increase, because the school board component of our taxes was a 0% increase the last few years. So if the school board can go 0%, then I think maybe our municipality can go to 0% too for the next few years, if that's possible. If they can do it, I'm sure they're doing something right. Maybe we should learn from them how to do that at 0% increase. The municipal tax portion for the last 3 years, last 4 years, compounded the municipal portion of our taxes were up by 35%. So that's just to make sure that there's a distinction between the municipal tax rate and the blended tax rate. Lucky that the school tax board was at 0% last 2 years. Thank you.
Schools are struggling, just put that out there. Anything like that. Sorry, keep going.
I didn't hear what you say. You can't hear us, or?
He's comparing it to publicly fund things, and I go, that I think you can listen to, okay? So.
My name is Don Anthony, and so I'm running for council. So for the question, I'm not 100% sure of what's going on in the other municipalities. Again, I would refer to the attitude that we have here in Tiny. The attitude is that your taxes are low and that there's room to move. There's a credit card available and we can use it. And again, that is the problem. It's an attitude problem that you deserve to pay more, or you have the ability to pay more, or whatever that attitude is, it's the wrong attitude. And we need to start looking at ways that we can keep the taxes low, because everything else is going up and you don't have the money to spend on that as well. This is controllable. Okay, we can't control what happens in Ottawa, we can't control what happens at Queen's Park, but we can control what happens here in Tiny. And it's time we start taking it back and get control back, and at least limit this part of our expense. We can't control the grocery store, we can't control the gas prices, but we can control taxes here in Tiny. If we vote right, we can make changes and we can go in the right direction.
Hi, Karen Zolnik again. That was a great question, because let's be honest here. Our assessment value is the highest in Simcoe County, pretty much. If you take a house on the shoreline and you take that same house in Tay, you're going to pay, well, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's much higher. So we have to start looking at the assessment values, because we are paying way too much taxes here on the shoreline compared to our services. And when current council says, you know, we're the lowest, you're not going to compare us to Midland and Penetang, because we don't have even 1% commercial tax rate. So they got all these businesses, and then they're going to lump us in that ball of apples. It's not right. We're paid for the services we get. You're getting your roads plowed, and you're getting your garbage picked up. You got no sewer, you got no, and the municipal water, you're paying a lot for that. I've talked to people kind of saying they're paying up to $1,200 a year, and it's going to go up because, you know, there's water mains that have to be replaced. So we are not the lowest in Simcoe County, and that's just a fact. And it upsets me when I read those glossy flyers that come out in the tax notice to make it look like we're doing so great, because we're not. And that's why I'm running, because I'm going to try and do something about it. I'm Jessie Garland for councillor. So I would just like to share that while I've been canvassing, going door to door, and people have told me, and one resident said, the taxes I pay here in Tiny are the same that I pay in Woodbridge. And here in Tiny, I'm on a well, and I'm on septic, so I get garbage pickup, and if I like, I can play pickleball. So that's it. So, you know, so when people say, like, so, you know, for that massive increase, people don't see any increase in services, and I think that's a problem, because everybody doesn't play pickleball. So I think we just have to have a long, hard look at that and recognize, and only 25% of the people are on municipal water, and everybody else is on well. So, you know, that's it. Anyway, those are my 2 cents. I'm done. Okay.
Steve McNamara for council. To compare us to other townships, I think is disingenuous. We don't have the same level of services, like I said, and we don't have the tax base to afford those things. In my personal situation, I'm on a well, I'm on septic, and I pay for my own. So I don't even know what services I get. That's you can't compare me to someone that's got all those other services.
Kelly Holoka, I'm seeking re-election for councillor. For the record, we will never be the lowest in the county of Simcoe because ESSA gets funded for having the CFD board. So they will always be the lowest. For us to try to strive to maintain bottom 3 is what this current council has done. And I think no matter what the interest for the new building is going to be, it would have been the same for renovating the old one. Because there was no money set aside for renovations from previous.
Stephen Walden, Council Canada. To answer the question directly, I have no idea what the per capita is. We live in Canada. It's based on your ability to pay. And in the municipality's standpoint, it's not based on income, it's based on the assets you own. So yes, we have a very large assessment base, and that is where our tax revenue is generated from. Some people pay more than others. If you have a larger home and you choose to live there, you're going to pay more taxes in the municipality than if you live in a smaller home. That is the system, and that's not dictated by council. That is provincially regulated. Taxes are set out, and how we collect them, and MPAC sets those assessment values. So I don't know, the reference to school boards, I agree, school boards are underfunded. Our municipality has been gone to AMO, made delegation to the different ministries, specifically Minister of Finance, for additional funding for our schools. And this is something that we would want to keep doing. The reference to services, wells, and septics absolutely are paid for upfront by the person that owns those homes. And you have to maintain those operational costs. In another municipality that has municipal water and wastewater, the same thing applies, only now you're paying for those usages on top of your taxes. They're not incorporated in the taxes, so saying water and wastewater as a service is true to a sense, but more from an environmental protection standpoint, not from a cost standpoint. So I think I answered the question directly. I have no idea what our per capita to Tay Township is, but we do have a very low tax rate relative to other municipalities. Our tax rate increases have been very similar to those other municipalities.
Hi, Laura Hughes, first time running for council. Brian, good to see you. Great question. So, for me, being in Toronto, I didn't know what the taxes were in Tiny, right? I bought a condo in 2023 in Toronto, and I knew what the taxes were in Toronto. I learned what the taxes were when I started paying mom's bills She's living at Tiffin House in Midland. And then I saw that the taxes went up. So here's what I think. I think that when I try to compare myself in any way to another person, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't serve me. So I want to compare Tiny Township to Tiny Township. I want to look at what Tiny Township's taxes were last year, previous years. If they're the number one lowest, that's great, but they're 35% higher than they were. That's the problem, right? We have people here, like Mom, who's in Tiffin House. She was a physio, she worked at the Arthritis Society. Her taxes just went up. She can't afford it. She's on a group pension and living at Tiffin House. We're actually putting together a HELOC because the cottage is, I don't think there ever was a mortgage on it. It was built in 1936, but we got to take out a HELOC so that we can afford for her to live at Tiffin House. And now our taxes have gone up, right? Our pay has not increased 35%. So I will do everything that I can in my power to make sure that we lower your taxes. And we're comparing Tiny to Tiny, so you don't have to worry about what am I going to do. I can't afford to pay my taxes, and now I have to do like a short-term rental. Thank you.
Chuck Stradling, running for mayor, and I have no idea either what PA is paying for taxes on an individual basis. And as far as the whole taxes, as I said before, my position is the target should be no more than a cost of living increase. So that would be the base to work from, again, and as others have said on the same table, you don't know until you get in that office and talk to the finance people where we actually sit. I looked at the financial reports that are going to, or the first half report that's going to council next Wednesday, and yeah, I mean they're every item shows that they're trending properly. They haven't spent half the money they said they were going to spend. So again, we're trending again to having $1 million surplus next year, and they won't know. They'll be sitting down in November with a new budget. Hopefully I'll be the mayor that's leading that discussion. And I think that what we're going to do is we're going to go to the finance people and say, well, what is the actual cost for this year? And they're going to say, well, we don't really know until April. But they want to do a budget based on what they budgeted the year before. So if I was in charge of that discussion, I would obviously say we need to know in December how much we've actually spent. What is going to be our surplus for the year 2026? So that we can set the budget rate or the tax rate at what it should be. Not come back and say, find out that we've got $2 million we didn't spend, and okay, well, let's go spend it on this, that, and the other. Or put it in reserves. And that's what's been happening. So I want to see an end to that.
Dave Kohler, candidate for mayor. A lot has been said here. I'm sure you all will move on to the next question. What I will say is, I, like you, have endured a 35% compounded increase in municipal levy in the last 4 years. I personally have seen no increase in services to support that or justify it. If I saw that things were getting done, that there was massive increases in improvements rather in the infrastructure, I'd be okay. I would love it. None of us want to pay more, but the reality is we are in a relatively speaking, amongst the other peer townships, low tax position, sort of. But the question is, where is this money going? We have 65% of our roads in our asset management plan identified as fair or poor. Where's the money going? If you spend 35% more, as a consumer, I'm looking for value, and I've seen none of it. But to me, this smacks of mismanagement, this smacks of inappropriate prioritization, and poor judicial use of our money. I think we need a zero-based budget. For those of you without accounting background, that basically means you wipe the board clean, you start with zero. You don't take last year's and add to it. You break it all down line by line. You say, what do we need? What do we actually need to spend this on? What are our priorities? You build it from the bottom up, and it's more work. But at the end of the day, it's your money, and you deserve that. So, Brian, thank you for the question. It's an important topic. Taxes here are out of control, and they're going to get worse. And you need a council, you need some leadership here that understands how to solve complex problems and bring this back down to a reasonable place. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take the time a little bit. We're going to go to 1 minute answers because there's a lot more questions that haven't been asked, and we're down to the last half hour. So I don't have one before that, but we're trying to get as many questions as possible. 107. 107.
Hi, my name is Kevin. When you answer the question, again, I'm just reminding you, please could give us your names and tell us what position you're running for, because this is getting confusing. There's no shortage of bylaws that I think are an overreach in Tiny, but right now, the LaFontaine area, we've got a situation where Bell is seeming to be able to run fiber optic cables beside roads, trees, sticking out under pavement, coming to cut driveways that we pay to pave every time they have to do a cable repair, in the process of which they usually cut 2 or 3 cables. So I'd like to know if you're in favor of directing any of the town's resources to policing these people. Because the next thing we know, they're going to show up with string and tomato juice. Thank you.
Okay. All right, just to remind everyone, we're going to keep the answers to this round and one question.
Good evening, Barrett for council. Yes, I've seen that situation in lots of different communities, and I think the township has to be more aggressive with Bell doing the fiber optic. They need to police it. I've seen that in other jurisdictions where properties were left a mess. So I think the township can work on accountability with Bell.
Ray Miller, councillor candidate. I had no idea it was a problem in the community. I'd never heard of it before. Presumably, Bell Canada and other utility providers have easements across that property. And again, presumably, the legal requirements and what safety standards they need to meet are outlined in those easement agreements. I think it's something that's perhaps beyond the jurisdiction of the municipal council, but I'd be happy to take a look if that's or when the issue arises.
Gabriel, candidate for mayor, I totally agree with his point. It wasn't. I don't think it's a major problem. It's there's so many different priorities going on, and this is probably one of the lowest ones. But we will take a look at it for sure. If they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, but what they're doing is probably okay, allowed. If they break it, they should be doing okay to make sure that they don't cut. I don't think they're doing it purposely or there's a lot of it going on. But if there's a problem, we'll certainly look at it.
Don Anthony, councillor. I'm not sure about that problem either, but I would say that all contractors need to work responsibly, and we can probably either send a letter or a message or a request that whatever they're going to do, that they repair properly. And we are at a time where infrastructure is being changed, things are being updated at the new time, so we're going to have to expect some inconveniences, but certainly we can expect everybody to act responsibly within that.
Karen Zelinek, Deputy Mayor. As the gentleman said, this is something I haven't heard before, Kevin. So I can't really comment on it, and I'll pass the mic because it's something that it will have to be, I don't know whose responsibility it is, like you were saying, Ray. I'm really not familiar with it, so I don't want to make any promises or anything. But I'm sorry, Kevin, that this is happening in your area in LaFontaine.
Thanks for making me aware of it.
My name is Jessie Garland, and I'm very aware of this. So we've had, and it's between Bell and Acon Construction sometimes, the two departments never speak. And so Bell comes in, installs the line, and then Acon comes in and cuts the line, and this is ongoing. So we've had that problem on a portion of our street, it's happened 5 times. So people are really frustrated. Maybe there's a way to communicate more with actually Acon Construction or the other subcontractors who have done this, and Bell, but it's probably also very limited. Anyway, thank you for the question. Thank you.
Steve McNamara, running for council. I don't think that something the township could do. It's probably something you're going to have to address with individual contractors like Bell or something. Possibly the township could send some kind of letter to Bell and let them know that there's an issue and see if kind of upper management to come out and check it. Really, I don't think it's the township in their permit.
Kelly Holoka, running for council. I too am not familiar with this issue. I know Swoop is also running fiber throughout the township, but I would recommend to the bylaw chief that maybe one of his officers near the end of the day goes and inspects the work that they've done, if that's within the township purview. Thank you.
Stefan Loma, council candidate. Also, new issue for me. It is, I guess, regulated by the Utilities Act, so if I were making a recommendation, I would email our Director of Public Works, Tim Leach, at tiny.ca. He should be able to direct you on the best course of action, so most likely getting in touch with the utility company. Just going back, because I got a little extra time, the township does a zero-based budget, and running a surplus is not a bad thing. If you don't encourage staff to find savings throughout, they're going to get them to spend all that money, and then you don't have that surplus at the end of the year to apply to reserves, to pay for other things, or put it back within the tax rate, all of which are things this current council has done. Thank you.
Hi, Laura Hughes, first time for council. Kevin, thanks for your question. I tried to get Bell Internet when I moved up here August 1st. Somebody came out, was looking at drilling and doing things. 3 hours later, I got a knock on my door saying that the pole is, I can't remember the term he used, essentially topped out. So the seasonal people who come here and, you know, hang out at their cottages or bring friends up are using the Bell Internet. So I went and got more data on my phone for free. I now am aware of this issue. That's really weird, guys. I don't know. Anyway, so to answer the question, I think, you know, my 20 years in corporate life has said, have conversations. What I would do is I would bring in representation from all of the people, Bell, Rogers, Starling, Swoop, and say, hi, we need to figure this out, and we would come to some sort of agreement so that if your property is damaged, we have a solution for that. It would be each individual person is coming to me, and I'm going to help solve each individual problem. I'm not looking for, you know, there's going to be 3 things or whatever. It would be individual. Thanks.
Okay, so we're getting down to our last question.
Yes, Chuck Stradling, running for mayor. I too am not aware of that situation, and I live in the Lafontaine area, so, but I've seen the Bell guys. I watched them when they put it into my house. I was a little shocked when they came along with a saw and went through the end of the driveway and then just dropped these cables in. I thought, oh my gosh, what happens if they have to dig up the road? And surely next year they came and repaved the road, which is kind of nice too. But anyway, I think it's certainly within the realm of public works to deal with, and they should be dealing with it. The lines are run on municipal property, and then they come across property. I don't think there's any easements at all. I've never had anybody approach me about an easement. But anyway, it's
runs along the municipal property and should be public works. So I would suggest you contact Tim Leach at Public Works, tell them what the issue is, and see if you can get some result.
Hi again, Dave Kohler, candidate for mayor. I won't repeat what you've heard here. I think this is potentially a relatively focused problem, but it does remind me of the situation we're in from a pure technological perspective in Tiny. I read a 2022 survey that said the number one issue on people's minds was connectivity. I don't know about you all, my cell phone does not work well. I drive around half the time with one bar or less. I think there's a role for council. I think that whether it's through Works or others to advocate on behalf of the community to get better communication systems installed here. Unfortunately, that sometimes means disruption and driveway cutting. The reality is we need to come into the 2026 time frame in terms of our access to internet and other things. I have Bell. It went in flawlessly. I can't recognize the situation that you're experiencing, although I'm sure it's frustrating. But I think there's a role for the township to play in.
Sean Bryant, I'm running for council. I believe that if it's a problem for a resident, then it's a council issue. I think council is there to serve the residents and help them out with problems and dilemmas they're facing. So an automatic thing for a council to do would get these groups, the utilities in one room and go through it and do the ins and outs of what's working well and what's not working well. In your situation, I don't know, maybe there could be even just a rogue bunch of installers that are kind of taking shortcuts. I don't know. Some installations are done well. We've had some fiber done in front of our place. Guys were great in and out, never knew they were even going through the property. So again, long and short of it, we pull these guys together, utilities. They want to have a good rapport with the municipality, so let's solve it.
Okay, we're almost at noon. Is everyone okay with one more question? Or be cognizant of everyone's timing. Is everyone okay with one more question? Yeah. About 15 minutes? Okay. 050. Zero 50.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out to talk to us. I'd like to ask a question, a little bit of backdrop around dynamic beach shoreline bylaw, whatever you want to call it. It's a big issue. It's costing us all a lot of money. Seasonal people are also residents of Tiny, and town halls don't work. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for those that are in it. There's the three bylaws, the OPA, the zoning bylaw, and the shoreline bylaw. We haven't got to the shoreline bylaw, and that's the meaty stuff. Consultations have happened. They have not listened to the community. And my question is, what would you do differently in order to move this through to a cost-effective, mutually agreeable solution?
Ray Miller, councilor candidate. The dynamic beach issue is a big issue, obviously, and on top of the mind for many people. I think it's important to distinguish what was set out by provincial policy statement in 2005. It was a dictate that came from the province that said you have to be mindful and watch the flood zones in the province. So that's how we set. That's how it came about to be a 15-meter setback and a 45-meter setback. The 15-meter setback was for typical wave uprush. The 45-meter setback dealt with the dynamic beach area. I was on council at the time when the provincial policy statement first came out, and the province had declared the vast majority, over 90% of the municipality, was a dynamic beach. Council, good day, and their wisdom decided to hire coastal engineers to assess that, to see if there was in fact 90% or more coverage for dynamic beach. It turns out there wasn't. It was about 48%, I think, dynamic beach, 45% possibly dynamic beach, and the rest were definitely not dynamic beach.
What's dynamic beach?
That's what happens when you have to answer complex questions with simple answers. It's an impractical solution. Thank you.
I think when I was mayor candidate, we had a shoreline dynamic beach alteration bylaw that dealt with this, the fencing and retaining walls from the high water mark to the water fence. That's what the main focus was. And then to the dynamic study, let's go to 15-meter setback. They want to go 45-meter setback. I'm the one voting against the 45-meter setback. Monday, it was very controversial. Council, lots of deputations came to say, you know what, if we go to 15-meter setback, there won't be no litigation. So I said, well, why don't we go to 15-meter setback to start, see how it goes, and then at 45 meters, we can look at it further on. No, for this one, 45-meter setback, now we have a big litigation problem, using a lot of taxpayers' money to try to fight this. It's just unbelievable what's going on. So my track record is proven where I stand on this position.
Don Anthony for council. My position on this is that the 45-meter setback is an overreach. The 15 meters is reasonable. Many of the people that I've talked to on the beachfront do want some controls over what people can do beyond the high water mark. They don't want to look out their windows, and they don't want to see fences or retaining walls. They want the beach open, and they want the environment protected both. So I think 15 meters is reasonable. 45 meters is an overreach. And I think if we did that, we could come to terms with everybody quickly, and litigation would be removed, wouldn't be costing taxpayers money suing, and it wouldn't be costing the council money to defend it.
Karen Bullock, Deputy Mayor, I agree. It's on my flyer. I will revert it back to 15 meters. I think it's a complete overreach. I did hear in a meeting once that Councilor Walma did mention that it was going to give the public more giving people more public beach, and that is not what the shoreline is for. It was an environmental issue, and then it was kind of put out on those Facebook pages that, oh, we're gonna have this because it's gonna make more public beaches. We have to start respecting private property. You know, we have, I think it's 14.5 kilometers of public beach, and the rest is private. So the shoreline isn't gonna make it any more public to the people, and 15 meters is enough. And this OLT fight that's going on and going to court in 2027, I'd like to squash that so you guys don't have to spend any more money. It's a complete overreach.
I agree with Don and Karen. So my position on this is that the 45-meter setback is too large. When I looked at Woodland Beach and various other pieces, portions of the township, 45 meters went from the front of their cottage all the way to the middle of Tiny Beach's road south. That seemed a little excessive. So, just saying. So I think the 15-meter setback is probably reasonable because it will prevent people from putting up like huge retaining walls and giant fences or whatever people wanted, because it's very important to keep the shoreline the way it's supposed to be as much as that's possible. Because, you know, when people build those huge groins or whatever they are, they impact the water flow and the sand flow. So 15 meters, that's my position. Thank you.
Keith McNamara, running for councillor. Once again, I think calling it the dynamic beach bylaw is disingenuous. As Mr. Miller said, most of the township isn't dynamic beach. It was sold to us as an environmental dynamic beach protection. We're painting the whole township with the same brush again. I would go back to the 15 meters, and I think that would stop the lawsuits.
Kelly Holka, running for councillor. Mr. Miller obviously has some previous experience, but I want to ask everybody if you've seen Judy Sullivan's Aqua 5 solution video, because that will educate you as to the dangers that could happen to our beach if we do not protect them to the 45-meter mark. And the 45-meter mark is only for people to get a permit. I've heard people say, oh, I can't even put up a birdhouse. That is not true. All the township wants is the opportunity to say yay or nay to see what you're doing to the beach. Check the signs. Check the signs. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we agreed at the beginning for decorum. Can we please keep our rules to it's disrespectful to the candidates. They are taking time out of their day and they are running schedule. So please, can we just be respectful? And also, Stefan gets an extra 30 seconds because he was called out, and then of course we'll go back to Ray, who was also called out.
I'm calling it a Ray again, so he gets an additional 30 seconds. This was science-based and in line with provincial regulations. So the 45-meter setback, that's how it was built. To answer the question directly, what I would do differently or just more of, is the educational component. Because absolutely you can build a bird feeder. One of the components was environmental. The other one was its impact on people's accessibility to the beach. Previously, things like landscaping are not captured in any kind of building code. So you can go down and put a growing wall or a retaining wall, as long as it's below a meter, without any kind of permit. And those are the things that are impeding water flow, impeding access along the beaches. We run into those every day. And this now captures that. Anything that's incorporated under the zoning bylaw, including builds in that 45-meter hard set, you can replace your windows, you can do renovations, you just can't increase the footprint of that build without a coastal engineering report. Renovations are still fine. You can't dig, you can't go down and excavate. You can still cut trees, you can't take the root systems out. You got to get into the nitty-gritty of what it actually is and what it's for. So, yes, environmental protection, but also, yes, access to the beaches. Those were the two components for that build, and this was brought forward and supported by the previous council and built out by the existing council. Yeah, Ray Miller. Ray Miller. How many 30 seconds did you get?
Laura Hughes for council first time. So I'm 49, so I've got 49 years of history on the area of beach that my property is in. It's a dynamic beach. Every summer, we would race up to the cottage to see if we could see the rock. We have what we call the rock. And there was one year where the rock was on the beach about yay high, right? I believe it was in our beach association book. The next year, it was down here, and I could stand on it and jump into the water. 45 meters, 15 meters, I think the point is there's not a set number for all of us because the beach is dynamic, right? So, it's whatever year it is, my idea is put in a request and then we can determine whether or not you can build that. If we choose to and your boathouse floods, that's on you. Simple.
Running for mayor again. I'm glad to see so many of the councillors, the new councillors, are in agreement with 15 feet. Hi, Dave Kohler for mayor. In my experience, people that own beachfront properties are some of the best stewards of beachfront property. In my experience, people care a lot about the ecology of Tiny. And as per my comment on the short-term rental thing, this strikes me as just yet another overreach by this council. Do we need shoreline protection? Of course. 45 meters is ludicrous. 15 makes sense to me. Is there a better number? I don't know. I hear there's been studies done. I was of the impression that there was a private group funding the Baird group to do the actual science to determine what it should be or what it best should be. But at the very least, you've got rocky shorelines in Tiny, you've got beaches in Tiny, you've got dunes in Tiny, you've got lowlands in Tiny. They're not all the same, folks.
And to have one broad, overreaching bylaw that covers them all, I don't think makes any sense. So, as part of council, it would be my intention to try and review all of these overreach bylaws, and that one's darn near the top of the list.
John Bryant, running for a council position. We live on a beach, and our beach changes every year. But with that said, I think that 15, 14 meter setback is very realistic for our zone for sure. We've gone in, talking about shoreline protection, what have you, we've gone in and also enhanced the shoreline by planting, putting in native plants and different vegetation covers so that it collects the sand and it really starts to protect almost like a dune kind of approach. And so it's worked very effectively. We've got birds and insects, and it's got its own little habitat on its own. So I think if I was elected, I would want it to be reverted back to 14 and do that.
David Sparrow for council. When the bylaw first came out with the dynamic chief bylaw, that to me sounded very logical. Protect the environment, I'm all about that. Then it spread to all beaches in China. And then the ironic thing, which I mentioned in my deputation a long time ago, was the township decided that they were exempt. I don't understand that. If it's for everybody across Tiny, it also includes Chinese properties as well. So it seems just be punishing different areas. So to me, it has to be, each area has to be assessed, and I agree that probably the 15 years that was in place, all the rules for protecting the environment were already established, and I think that's where we need to go back to.
Ray Miller, council candidate. Now that I have half an hour to discuss this. Listen, I think the starting point for everybody should be what the provincial policy statement made perfectly clear in 2005. I own shoreline property where there was a significant increase in elevation between 178 meter geodetic elevation and the next properties down the street. There are other places in the municipality where the change in elevation is a matter of centimeters from 178 to the 45 meter. So clearly there are places where the 45 meter setback is both necessary and important. Much of it isn't. Sorry, 30 seconds. I was called back twice. Yeah. This is the problem, right? This is the problem. Anyways, it's a serious problem, and I would suggest anybody that has an interest in it to look and see what the provincial policy statement stated in 2005, and that's an excellent starting point.
All right, again, I think we should thank all the candidates up on